'94, I became the first Australian woman to catch a triple somersault to Bekki, and to this day, no other Australian woman has caught it. So it's a 30-year-old record. My name's Bekki Ashton, and I'm the sixth generation of the Ashton family. Grandkid number 5 or 6, I think I was, in the line from my grandparents. Born on the road. I was actually born in Cogra. The circus was at Lismore. And actually, I'm not 100% sure where the circus was when I was born, but I went back to Lismore. So I think I spent about a week. My mum grew up in Sydney, and spent about a week with my grandparents who lived in Sydney. And Mum joined back up with the show when the circus was at Lismore.
Right.
I think first major city was Adelaide, so moved to Adelaide that year as well, and been on the road ever since. Touring.
So what do you do in the show?
In this show, at the moment, currently not much at all. I'm down to one trick in 2 acts, so one trick in the first act, one trick in the last act. So start and finish the show.
And when Infamous first started, what were you doing?
Yeah, so it's still the same tricks, a little bit more in the flying trick. When Infamous started in 2017, so 7 years ago, we're doing a duo act with Michelle, my sister-in-law, called the Yin Yang, where we both just do tricks. She was the bearer, obviously, and I was the one that did the tricks under her, and together with her we did quite a number of things, but we've been doing that act since about 2007 or 8. About 2008 we started doing that act together.
Right.
So, and we just finished about a year now, not quite a year that we've stopped doing it.
So what are your specialties in the circus over the last?
Obviously flying
decades?
trapeze or anything aerial. I've always done aerial work since I was little because that's what my mum taught me, but we sort of learn everything. When you're little, you learn to tumble, and tumbling helps, good groundwork, gets you prepared for aerial work. I did my first act at 8, and it was my act I won't say my own. My first sort of solo sort of act was at 8, but before that I did like trampoline numbers with my brother and my cousins and little cutesy things where you go in and assist the whips and hold the papers for the whip act and stuff. But my first act that I actually practiced for and trained for was a dental act with Circus, and he basically hung in a cradle upside down and held all the apparatus in his teeth. So it was called the Iron Jaw Act. And he held the trapeze and the split ropes, and I did all the routines underneath him, and that was when I was 8. And I did that quite a while, and as I got older, there was a few other acts in the show that I progressed onto when my cousins would get pregnant. We did triple trapeze with my cousin Tara and Michelle, and I eventually got in the flying act when I was about 16, 17. And I loved it. Just loved the flying. So I guess you could say that the flying was my specialty, even though I did different aerial acts as well over the years. Finally did my own solo trapeze act by about 97, 98. I put a solo trapeze act and I went and worked at Circus Royale with that. And then after I finished at Circus Royale with the solo trapeze, and I was doing the flying act there as well, I got, my brother had already started Circus Joseph Ashton, so Ernie and I moved from Circus Royale and joined Peppy and Michelle and the 2 little boys at the time, and so I was able to do my solo trapeze act for them, and we put the flying act in as well with Ernie top catching, and then I was sort of still doing double somersaults in the trapeze on the flying, but I was sort of on my way, not retired, but, I did doubles up until after Ricky was born, so he's just turned 19. So probably 15, 16 years ago I was still doing double somersaults, so that seems like a long time ago. I feel like it was only yesterday.
Now, your daughter's doing that in the show.
Yeah. So now Dante does the doubles in the show, and in this show, and Ricky does all the phenomenal tricks in Stardust Circus at the moment. And when he comes home to visit, and does triple and triple full twisting somersaults. So yeah, the kids have certainly surpassed their mum.
What else do you do at Infamous? What other jobs do you do?
Of course, everybody does everything. There is no such thing as that's not my job scenario in circus in general. At the moment, Ernie's away, so I'm cleaning the toilets for him because he's not here. It's been busy, so it was like extra rubbish to pick up, extra mopping to do, because it has been quite nice crowds here in Newcastle.
Yeah. So
yes,
you
I
do
just
hosting,
general.
you do the hosting as well?
Yeah, so pre-show. So my pre-show jobs are, greeting the customers and helping them get to their seats in the tables and the ringside and our premium, and then making sure that the line's moving smoothly, getting people in, making sure all the customers are happy, comfortable, especially our like wheelchair or accessible seating people. Myself and Simon try to make them feel as comfortable as possible when they arrive. And then once the show starts, I'm in the opening number, and then do the winch for Dante for her trapeze act. I'll then get changed really quickly because I have to serve the tables their dessert, and there's a small window there where there's not really much happening around the tables, so I've got to sort of get those desserts out before Ian pops his balloon and the girls come out for the next dance number. So so far I haven't dropped any desserts, touch wood. I know one day it's going to happen because I have dropped beers.
You'll manifest it now.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I have dropped a tray of beers, and only once. So rushing.
You joined the Wheel of Death for a trick, which is, in my opinion, the most dangerous in the whole show. Too high.
Yeah, the too high is pretty dangerous. We were the first people in the world to do the too high. I think that was 2011. We started doing that. And then not long after, about a year later, Ringlings, an act at Ringlings did it. And then the Duffy Boys in Ireland have done it as well. As far as I know currently, we're still the only ones doing it. Duffy Boys may be doing it still, but I haven't actually spoke to them in a while about that. But yeah, pretty proud of that trick because, it was a lot of guts and a lot of stupidity on my part. But a lot of trust. Yeah. Really
touches the roof.
I have hit the tent, and that's not my fault. It's been when they haven't pulled the tent out tight enough.
Right.
And I have not my head, but my crown. My crown has hit the tent. So
do you know how high that is? The tent?
Well, the king pole is 17 metres.
Yeah.
So we're not at the peak of the king poles. I think the bottom of the platform's only about 8. The top of the wheel is maybe 9. Yeah, maybe. I'm great with measurement. Probably like 12 metres top of the...
So the Ashtons are obviously famous for being one of the oldest, or the oldest family in Australia that's still running.
And they're, all the circus... There's a couple of circus family names, and we'll all go, we're the oldest, you're the oldest, I'm the oldest. And it is, hard to pinpoint because there's some really good documentation out there. But we'll say we're the oldest because we know James Henry Ashton, came out as a convict, and he got a license. He worked for Radford Circus, I think it was, in Tasmania, and he worked for a circus in a sort of a theatre situation. But it wasn't until 1851 that he got his first legal license to open his own circus. So we can say, we date back to performing since 1838. Yeah. But legitimately, our first license wasn't until 1850. And then, we've got Perrys and we've got Worths, and there's a lot of those families who can also trace their lineage back quite a fair way to the 1800s. So it's sort of a he say, she say, Chinese whispers, the family history, and, there's some debate over who's the oldest, but we're still, us and Perry's, I think, as far as Australian circus names currently, are the ones that have been touring for quite continuously since the 1800s.
So another thing the famous Ashtons are famous for is it's the trapeze. How did the trapeze come about in the show? Flying trapeze.
Flying trapeze. Well, the flying trapeze. My dad saw a gentleman. I can't remember what show it was. Came out. An overseas circus came to Australia. My dad was about 14, I think, and he saw the flying trapeze and he really wanted to learn it. So he built a flying trapeze rig and for outside and a safety net, taught himself to make safety net, taught his dad, my grandpa Dougie, to catch, and my auntie Lorraine, his sister, taught her to drop bars and to do a couple of simple tricks across. When there was actually an act to be done, my grandpa had to buy a bigger tent to put the flying trapeze in. Yeah, so I think it was about, we're trying to guess, but we think it was like, I think Dad was about 16 and he was born in 38. So it was like, yeah, it's 58 we think. We think it was like 1958 that he started the flying act. Might have been earlier, 48. I can't really remember now, off the top of my head again.
And was anyone else doing that in Aussie circus?
Yeah, so there was, I think there was some flying trapeze acts in Australia. That, again, the Perrys, I know that because they had a female catcher. One of the Perry girls just was the catcher because that's what she had to do.
Yeah.
And the guy, his name was Alex Kurlov. He came and helped Dad and taught him some tricks and stuff. Taught him about the measurements between the fly bar and the platform and the catch bar. So. And then Dad just sort of over the years taught himself more, taught the catchers more. Then, girls would come along, he'd teach a girl to fly, taught all my cousins. And then in the early 70s, the Ashtons brought out a troupe called from Los Muchachos, a Spanish circus. And they did the flying at that point. So that was sort of another injection of teaching methods, different style of catch bar, different style of flying. And so the flyers from Los Muchachos, they stayed on and they were then the Space Angels for a while, through the late 70s into the 80s. And then Flying Ashton sort of reinvented itself when Peppy was about 22, early 20s. He decided to try putting in the top catcher. And he tried the first one where the catcher was above the catcher. So we had two catchers, one above that. And then that was okay. That went in for a little while. And then we moved it to the centre catcher in the cradle. And we did that for a very long time. On and off recently. We haven't been able to get Merrick back up there, the top catch bar. And then in June 94, I became the first Australian woman to catch triple somersault to Peppy, and to this day, no other Australian woman has caught it. So it's a 30-year-old record. But a couple of boys have. Yeah. A couple of boys have caught them, and obviously my son Ricky, he's now catching a triple full somersault and throwing quads. So he's going to become Australia's best flyer. We always thought my nephew Jordan was phenomenal. He was phenomenal, and he was very good, tall, for a boy who was so tall, to fly. And I think Ricky's just got that slightly bit better build. He's not as tall as what Jordan was.
Yeah. And
but Jordan did some amazing tricks to his dad, and him and his brother Merrick, they were 17 and 18, and they caught the triple somersault in the show. Yeah, so that was pretty special too.
Merrick was catching?
Merrick was catching, yeah. So my Peppy was out. Peppy was out with an injury, and not long after Merrick caught that triple, miraculously Peppy felt better.
Yeah. So the triple, for people playing at home, is considered one of the goals.
It is a goal for most flying trapeze artists, but it's getting less. I mean, there was so many. It's a hard trick because you have to get up so high. You have to spin really fast, but you also have to stop fast enough for the catcher to catch you. But in the old days, not many people did it, and then now there's a lot more flyers learning the techniques that they can watch on YouTube, or they can ask the advice by messaging somebody who's doing one. There's so much more knowledge out there now. There's a lot more girls this year alone that have caught triples. It's so amazing all over the world, these females. There's a young Australian girl overseas at the moment, Maybelle Gardner. I believe she's going to be the next Australian woman. She's going to knock me off my record.
Great. What we'll do.
So we're pretty proud of our flying history.
Yeah.
And bareback riding. Bareback riding was another skill that we were, because it was an old skill. James Henry Ashton was a really good bareback rider, and he taught all his kids, and they taught their kids, and
So is that with people on top of you as well?
Yeah. So
doing tricks on the side. I haven't really seen many.
Yeah. So the bareback riding, obviously, you stand on the back of a cantering horse, and you can do tricks, and then they do a carrying act as well, where the two horses side by side, and Grandpa would ride astride on the rump, and Nana would stand on the shoulders. Peppy and I did a little bit differently. We only had one horse that was good enough, so I just stood on Peppy's shoulders. And we did a few tricks. Dante and Ricky both did a little bit of bareback riding during Circus Joseph Ashton days. When Infamous went on the road, our flooring didn't really allow for horses to be stomping around all over the place. So unfortunately for Ricky, his bareback riding days were numbered, and that's when he learnt to do the flying trapeze. So James, Fred, Joe, Doug, Mervyn, Joseph. Yeah. So James Henry Ashton, his son Fred, his son Joe, Grandpop Dougie, my dad, Peppy. So that Peppy is 6, so that makes me 6 as well. And then Jordan and Merrick, 7, and then their children are 8 generations. Whole lot of us. And then obviously there's offshoots of that, because back in the old days they had multiple children, when a lot of the girls married local.
Yep.
And not many of the girls actually stayed in the circus, or they died young or died in childbirth, and then those children stayed local. Maitland, we have quite a few relatives in the Maitland area, because that's where the Nana Ivy came from, and so I've got to hopefully meet up with a lady when we're in Maitland to discuss her side of the family tree, because she's directly linked to James Henry Ashton as well, because her dad, I believe, was one of those brothers that we never knew about. What happened to them? It's kind of bad that we kind of only know the ones that really stayed in the circus, and there's so many that didn't, because there was like 12 kids and only 3 stayed in the circus. And my grandfather, his brother Cecil, passed away when he was 16 of leukemia. So when my grandfather's taking over the show, he was the only one. There was no other brothers to continue on other than Grandpa. So that, in that way, it was kind of lucky, because there was less fights. But then Grandpa and Nana had 3 children, and those kids had kids, and that's how the family obviously gets bigger. But a lot of us stayed, from Nana and Grandpop's tree. A majority of us have stayed in the circus, like something. Stayed in circus, or continued on in some line of entertainment. Comfortable?
Talked about children's lifestyle in the circus. What's it like for pets? This one here.
So, I've had 2 cats, and Kobe we've had 4 years since COVID. He was my COVID buddy, weren't you, Kobe? And dogs, I've had multiple dogs, but I had, when the We had 4 performing dogs. When they retired, and we headed this over east, instead of bringing their whole trailer, I just had 4 dogs live with me. Plus, Dante had 2 pet dogs.
Yep.
And Ernie had a pet dog. So we had at one point 7 dogs and a cat living in here. And,
So it's different.
And only 1 kid. Dante. Well, when Dante moved out into her first van, none of her animals would go with her. The caravan one of the caravans that she moved into, Bella would go in there and just stare at the shower and bark at it and growl and that was the only thing she would do in that caravan. It is. People go, how do you have cats on the circus? But I've never had a problem. I mean, obviously I've had a problem. My sister had, they've been run over. We've had cats run over, snake bites, that sort of thing. My last cat, Rory, I'm pretty sure someone took her because there was a house next door with a lot of cats and we looked for ages. There is a risk with cats from not coming back, but so far so good, touch wood. He likes his food too much, so I know he'll come home.
Yeah, so you get to a new lot, new town, and they just go out free range and then
so like on a travel day, on the night before a travel, I make sure that the kitty litter's full. We put the cat door down so that he can't get out. First thing in the morning, I will pop him in his carrier and put him straight into the truck. He has travelled. Rory used to travel in here, no problems. Covey doesn't like it, so Rory didn't have a problem inside the van at all travelling from town to town. But Covey's not a fan, so he comes in the truck with me, and I as soon as we get to the next lot, I'll put him in the van first, and then open the cat door so he knows where the van is. But this town. It's had an abundance of trees. He loves it. He likes to bring us presents, don't you? He brings birds and mice, which is mine. But yes, I have come home to bird feathers all over the caravan before.
Yeah.
Had birds as well. Dante and Ricky have had every pet imaginable. Rabbits, guinea pig. Oh no, they didn't have. Did they have guinea pigs? I don't know. But birds. They had multiple birds because. We had a Jack Russell performing dog that got into them and another husky that got into another bird cage. In the end, I was like, oh, I'm done with birds. And not the cats. The cat never had a problem with any of the birds. It was the dogs. The dogs wanted the birds. So, yeah, and multiple rabbits. Things you do for your kids.
Yeah.
But also the horses, so they grew up with horses. I grew up with lions and tigers and elephants, so horse and a cat, that's nothing compared to what, we'd bottle feed lion and tiger cubs, and my brother, so Peppy helped hand rear cubs, the tigons as well, and tiger cubs, looked after them, played with them, fed them. It's just weird that we can't do it anymore.
So where did the animals go after the Ashtons?
So with our tigers, I think we only had tigers in the end. We had a couple of tigers, but we had no one to look after them on site anymore. So we would I think they went to a zoo. A gentleman who was trying to open a zoo in Mildura or Swan Hill. I'm going to say Swan Hill. But he never got his license. Back. Did you get him?
Get what?
The t-shirts.
T-shirts. I went into Merrick and I said I was going to get them, and he said he's got one for tonight because I go to Coles just up the road.
Right.
And Kmart is right next to Coles.
Yeah.
But they sell them at Big W.
Oh, yeah, that's what I said.
So he didn't want the Kmart ones.
All right.
But it took me half an hour to get going because Minnie woke up just as I was about to leave, so I had to pat her bum for like 20 minutes. She's not happy, Jan. But she stayed asleep for 10 minutes while I ran out.
Okay.
I'm just getting the stuff out of the car.
Oh, good.
Thank you.
Oh, good.
So the lions, the tigers went off to a zoo?
They went off to a gentleman who was going, and then he couldn't get his license. So then he gave them to Canberra Zoo. And Canberra Zoo did a really bad thing and was stating that they were rescued circus animals when in fact they were donated by a gentleman, you know. So we'd in good faith given this gentleman, and he couldn't get his license, so he's given them to Canberra Zoo because he wasn't allowed to operate his own zoo. And yeah, they've turned it into this whole thing that they were rescued circus animals when in fact, well, no, they weren't, which is a bit of a shame because, but none of those animals are at Canberra Zoo anymore, all, obviously all old and passed away. Our elephants, Gigi, I think, was with Stardust Circus for a while because at one point, and then ended up at Dubbo Zoo, and then she recently just passed away to about 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
How old was she?
Look, our Abu, our main elephant, she had a 50th birthday in just about every town because it was a promo to get in the paper. So every town, Abu's 50th birthday, here we're having a big hay cake, we're having a fruit cake, we're having this cake. Come down and see the elephant on her birthday. Yeah, I think those girls were into their 50s, 60s, which is, you know, quite a long time for an elephant. I know that Abu was around my dad's age. Like Dad was 15, I think, when they got her. There's some really good footage of her kicking the, playing with the kids, just roaming on the lot, playing in the tire, swinging the tree. Yeah, we've got some really good old footage like that. So.
It's just a shame that kids these days won't experience
it. No. And, I mean, they will get to go to a zoo. There's a beautiful zoo here in Sydney, new zoo, and it's quite nice. So they will get to see animals that way. But, I mean, it's the country kids. You know, we would go to those country towns.
Elephants would come in.
Yeah, we would go into town. People could see the elephants as we drove into town. You know, sometimes we'd do a big convoy of trucks through town. The whole circus, if it was a bigger town, say like Tamworth or Toowoomba or, you know, something like that, we'd all meet at the outskirts of town and drive in as a convoy through the main street to advertise the circus was coming. And, you know, you could see the elephants on the trailer, and you could see the horses' heads and the camels' heads sticking out to float. So that was a big thing that you will never see. Kids will never see that again.
Never again. Where do you think circus is heading in Australia?
I think Australian circus have got a lot to be proud of as a whole. I think the younger kids, even the kids like my children and their peers, have got a lot of passion for circus. I don't think it's going to die out. I just think that what is going to kill us for them is locations. Trying to find somewhere for the big top to go up, because the circus is very popular. Circus as an art form is popular, but we as traditional circus people are not considered an art form. But circus skills in multiple different genres is a very popular.
Gyms and stuff.
Yeah, you know, so there's circus schools now. There's, you know, there's a lot of those a lot more circus happening in small cabaret, Spiegel tents and stuff like that. So, circus as a whole, I don't think will ever die out. No. But I think for us, for the future kids, it's the locations.
Is it the insurance that's the main trouble?
Insurance is another big problem, obviously. When it comes to red paperwork and stuff like that, I'm not the best person to talk to because I don't know enough about it. I do know that insurance is going to kill not only circus but a lot of industries.
Shows as well.
Insurance is a big thing. People have got to stop suing people for no reason. You know, public liability and all that. And, but yeah, like, you know, even Dante and Ricky in their young age can say, oh, we used to show there, and there's a Bunnings there now, you know. In Perth, there's so many grounds that we beautiful locations, but you can't show them anymore because there's something's been built on them. So And Sydney especially now, like, I just talked the other day, I was like, oh, that lot's not there, that lot's not there. And then the lots that are available are just, you know, hills like this and up and down, and they charge you a fortune for rent, and good look. So I think, I hope that there is a future for, Bindi's generation. Skill-wise, I think we've got a lot to hand down. There's a lot more. Like I said, my kids have surpassed my expectations and my skill level. So I think there's still a lot of hope.
Yeah.
That way. It's just the bureaucratic crap, finding grounds and how long it takes to get a location and stuff like that.
I think one of the most impressive things is you got a lot of these circus schools and gymnastics and acrobats coming to watch the show, and they're all, like, some of them go off to become Olympic stars and stuff like that. But the circus performers are just on another level because they've been doing it since they were 2 years old.
And it's the environment, Will.
And you can train because you get homeschooled here, and then you can go straight to training. And
there's things you can't teach that are inbred as well. There's like
your mentors are here as well.
Exactly. And just watching and learning, you learn so much by just being around that environment, as opposed to, say, a circus school kid who just goes into in there, has 2 lessons a week. Yeah, they might be good, but they might have great skills, but they have no presentation, or their toes aren't pointed perfectly every time because they're not around it 24/7. And there is, I do believe there's a lot that's hereditary. There's things you can't. There's certain things that can't be taught, like in a step-by-step process. There's a lot to be said for also putting an act in and having it perfected by doing it every night. It's not perfect the first show. It's like if Ricky didn't put a triple somersault in till he caught one at practice, he wouldn't have that many. And the audience sort of likes that.
Yeah.
Audience kind of like the fails too.
They love them.
They love the fails. They love it when Cody drops his clubs and he picks it up and does it again,
Yeah. It's the way you flirt with the crowd, working the crowd.
Yeah. And I think because of the circus schools and people that are doing circus skills for whether it's fun or fitness or to become professionals, people in the audience have a little bit better understanding of how hard a lot of our schools are. Like, before, people would see the flying trapeze and we make it look easy, but they knew it's hard, but they don't realise how hard it was until, they go to Club Med, they have a go on the trapeze and they realise how hard it is. Before, anybody could pick up 3 oranges or 3 balls and try juggling and realise how hard it is and appreciate the juggler a lot more.
Yeah.
But now with those circus schools, like, you'll get people coming out after the show and go, I do pole, and I don't know how you do that, and I do aerial silks I do aerial hammock at my local gym, and I realise, you guys are amazing, or whatever they think. And so in that way, it's kind of like, we're getting a little bit more appreciated.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's more than just being able to do. I know so many people that have these phenomenal skills, and their act is batshit boring.
Yeah, choreographer.
Yeah, just your presentation and how you come across to the audience.
Music is a big thing. I think.
Music, lighting.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Dante's really good at picking the perfect song for the act, I think.
I am terrible finding music. I've never been able to find music. I just pick music for an act. I've never been good at it. It's really weird. Like, I wish I was better. Costumes, I'm alright.
I think, I'm not sure about the science behind it, but I assume that genetics would be a big play with like Joe, Doug, Merv, Joseph, and then Merrick. Who've handed down like some sort of a skeletal and muscular genetics, because all of them would have been tumbling, doing two highs, doing all the stuff. I think by the time it gets to Merrick, that's quite good.
Merrick is extremely tall for an Ashton.
Yeah.
I've lost my
Gets it
head.
from Michelle.
I think so, from his mum's side of the family. Because all us Ashtons are quite short.
Yeah.
And
so yeah, it's good genetics throughout
Merrick,
the
if you look,
decades.
it's quite funny with Merrick. I've got our American cousins. When Merrick did his comedy with his brother, when Merrick did the comedy act with his brother, The Knockabout, there were things there that he picked up. Sorry, I'm just proofreading that. Peppy won't give me an answer. I don't know whether to keep the. I like the way that hand to hand was in the thing, but the wheels in it.
Does he want me to make one?
Yeah, well, he wants Maitland printing. I'll just tell Owen to. I want a generic poster. Anyway, beside the point. So these American cousins that did a little bit of comedy in their serious acts, and sometimes when Merrick used to do the Knockabout with Jordan, I'd be like, how is he so much like Cappy and Dougie, who he's never met, never seen perform other than probably in videos, but he'll do a little walk or a style that was just like Dougie, and I'd be like, that just flips me out.
Yeah.
You know? And then the same with Dante. Dante has a lot of my mum's characteristics, and my mum was just a dancer who joined the circus.
Yep.
And my dad is famous for saying that she fell in love with the job, so she married him to keep it. It was legit. Pretty accurate.
Where's your mum now?
So mum is looking after the circus property in Western Australia. And when we were coming over east with Infamous, she decided to stay there because we left the horses. So her and my dad stayed because we were only coming on. My brother kept saying, "Oh, this show's only going to last 6 months. This show's only going to last 6 months. We'll be back in Perth to do Circus Joseph Ashton, by the end of the year."
Yeah.
That was 6 years later, and we still haven't been back to Perth for the show.
Yep.
So this show took off a lot better than he expected.
Yeah.
Obviously, business goes up and down.
It was new. It's the first of its kind travelling cabaret circus, wasn't it, in Australia?
Yeah, I mean, it's in this sort of sense, yes. I mean, you'll get the Spiegel tent people saying, "Oh, it's not new," but it's new because we're using a big top, I guess. Circus has changed and evolved multiple times over the years. Circus changing is nothing new. Circus did something different. Like I said earlier, my grandparents brought out Los Muchachos, a Spanish circus full of boys, all boys circus. And they brought that out and toured it. My grandparents also did the Clown Who Lost His Circus at Pantomime with circus acts in it, and toured that. They brought out the German National Circus. So, in the 1800s, I was saying that when the brothers were fighting, they'd have two different shows, but when they were together, they'd have a two-ring circus. There'd be Ashton's two-ring circus. So, the fact that Peppy's, done something different from the family show is really not new, because our family have been doing it,
Innovative.
Yeah, and then all shows having to change from having the wild animals to, really long acts. Everybody's changing and upping the game in this industry in Australia, and the world, obviously.
So what was, you made some lifelong friends when you were younger? How did you meet?
You do. Well, I mean, obviously, people come and go through this industry all the time. That you have performers or people that just work for you. Growing up, you have multiple school teachers or
Yeah.
whatever. Yes, and so I think one of the hardest things is having friends that stay with you. And, you know, you'll get a handful of those, which I've got a friend who I met when I was 6 or 7 in Canberra. And, you know, we just became pen pals and stayed friends. And another friend who's a family friend, her grandparents were the printers for the programs and the posters in Adelaide.
Yep.
And the grandkids came to the show. The kids came to the show, became friends with my aunties and uncles, and then their kids started coming to the show, became our friends, and that's how you sort of made friends along the way. Mum would quite often put me into the local gymnastics club when we got to a town for more than a day, and she'd go and say, "Oh, can we be part of your, can I just put Bekki in for the day?" Or sometimes the local kindergarten.
Yep.
And we would make friends that way as well. You know, you sort of get a bit of a following, and there'll be still people to this day. What happened to that kid?
Yeah.
You know, or someone will come up to me and go, "Oh, do you remember being in such and such a town?" And I'll be like, "Oh my God, yes, I remember that." Or no, crap. Oh my God, there's so many kids I met, you know. But I think when your family in the circus, your cousins are your best friends. We, you know, my cousin Tara and I grew up more like sisters till she left when she was 19. We were together every day of our lives till she was for 19 years.
Yep.
And that's a connection that, even though we probably only talk a couple of times a year now, it's a connection we'll never lose, you know. And my sister, and then my sister's age group, Marcos and Mitchell and Tamara, they were just rat bag kids, and we'd just all have so much fun. And then you'd have kids, other kids who'd join the show with their families, whether their dad was a mechanic or their mum was a horse groom, and you'd sort of make friends along the lines that way.
Yep.
But yeah, making friends and it's pretty easy, but it's also sort of sometimes hard to maintain. Oh, there's the clip I was looking for.
A lot easier now though with social media.
Oh, look, I know a lot of people bag social media, but I tell you what, it was and digital cameras and social media. I mean, I've got 2.
You adapted quite quickly, didn't you?
Yeah. I've got so many photo albums that I would have a million more if I didn't have a digital camera. Like, that social media has been an amazing way to, like I said before, to learn, and also to keep in touch with your friends. You know, I've met people overseas when I was a teenager, and now we can reconnect and still, be a part of each other's lives because of internet and emails, and now, what was it? MySpace.
Yeah.
Wow, remember MySpace days?
Yeah.
There was actually, you probably didn't know about it, but there was another one, an offshoot of MySpace for circus people. It's called Circus Space.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and it was all circus people, and it was just like MySpace, but it was all circus people networking and friendsing and connecting, and then they wanted to start charging for it, and everyone just went, "Oh, what's this Facebook thing? Oh, we'll all have Facebook now."
Yeah.
So,
So what was it like when you became a teenager finding a boyfriend?
that was always hard for girls on the show. My cousins got lucky because my grandparents brought out a all-boys circus from Spain.
Yeah.
So 3 of my 2 cousins and an auntie married 2 of the boys, and another cousin from America married another one of the Spanish boys. Yeah. Yeah, that was always difficult, trying to make... And again, my connection with my local friends was sort of how you got to meet boys as well.
Yeah.
And then there'd be the boys that would join the circus and, just work on the tent. So you'd have a tent crew, and, well, you can't be friends with them, and they're dirty. And I'm like, they're dirty because they don't have a shower. Like, and then one of my boyfriends was actually my friend's ex-boyfriend. And then Ernie joined the circus, and he my dad saw potential in him as a possible catcher, and I was actually away. I was in Noumea working at the time when Ernie joined the circus, and my dad saw potential in him, and Peppy started teaching Ernie to catch, and he was around for a little while, and then he ended up going to Circus Royale, and he was there for a few months, and then my friend Emma, the owners of Circus Royale at the time, the Gassers, they were like, Bekki, you want to come work here because you work for us? I did a 6-week fill-in spot, and like, we really want a trapeze act, and I've got this idea for a theme, and so I went and worked for the Gassers at Circus Royale, and Ernie had already been there, so that's when we sort of finally got together. Kind of, we'd known each other, but we weren't together. And then we stayed a year at Circus Royale, and then Peppy had not long started Circus Joseph Ashton, and Ernie was like, well, look, I want to go work for your brother. And I'm like, oh, I don't know if I want to do that. I really liked it here at Circus Royale with Emma and Sandro and my godkids, and but so we finished up the year, and then we've been with Peppy so basically since 2000. Yeah, so 24 years, and 99, end of 99.
2 beautiful kids.
2 very talented kids, bossy kids.
Great grandkid.
And a grandchild. I think she's got something. She's definitely got something, that one. So some sort of skills going on that are going to evolve, and I'm pretty sure Bindi will. Hopefully, she gets more of a passion for doing, but she's learning faster than Dante in some aspects. But then I think kids grow up a lot faster in this day and age anyway.